plans for deploying the funds raised through the QIP?
Sure. So it was a very successful QIP with a very strong investor interest. And we closed the QIP earlier this week, raising 4,500 crores. And, as you know, that we had taken on money from private equities to fund the acquisition of Viatris's biosimilar business. And we have certain obligations to give an exit to these private equity investors. And so the first investor whom we had given an exit was ADQ earlier in this calendar year. And now there's another obligation that's coming up to Goldman Sachs for an optionally convertible debenture of roughly 200 million. And then we have other investors such as Kotak and Edelweiss who have an obligation where we have an obligation to give them an exit by March 26. So the proceeds of the QIP is basically going to be used to give exit to all these investors, which will also allow Biocon to increase its stake in Biocon Biologics from 72% on a fully diluted basis to roughly 79% post the exits are given to these investors.
Right. And Mr. Mittal, earlier in the earnings call, management had mentioned evaluating a reverse merger of Biocon Biologics with the parent in light of IPO market volatility. Could you help us with the latest update on that front? And also with that backdrop, what happens to the debt levels?
Sure. So the committee has been constituted in May 2025, so just a month back, and committee is looking at various options in terms of value unlocking for various stakeholders. And as one of the options mentioned was to evaluate a merger between Biocon and Biologics. And that, exercise is going on. The committee is meeting various consultants and bankers to understand various pros and cons and dynamics. And hopefully within the next few weeks, the committee will make a recommendation to the board. And then the board will decide what makes more sense for all the shareholders and stakeholders of both the companies, Biocon and Biocon Biologics. And as far as the debt is concerned, we have roughly $1.2 billion of debt, of which 800 million is in form of bonds, US dollar bonds, which is repayable in a bullet form in 2029. So there is 4 more years or 4.5 years for that debt obligation to be repaid. And apart from that, we have roughly $350 million of bank debt, with again a payment obligation starting next year. But bulk of the payment obligation is in calendar 27, 28, and 29. So we do think that as the business grows, cash flow improves, we'll be in a position to easily take care of these debt obligations as and when the repayment comes in.
So with respect to debt, can you also share the timeline and the amount you're planning to replace each year?
See, 26 is a very small number. As I said, that bond, nothing is repayable till 29, and even for the remaining 350 million of bank debt, majority, the payment starts in 27 and then going up in a ballooning way in 28 and 29. So in this fiscal, there's no repayment of the biologics debt. There might be a smaller portion of debt that comes up for repayment in generics business, but not significant in the big scheme of things. And again, FY27 is going to be again a smaller amount, but 28 onwards, fiscal 28 onwards is when you will see the debt repayments start on the remaining amount.
All right, and along with that, Siddharth, one of the other areas that you have been focusing on is the GLP1. So help us understand that what kind of GLP1 opportunities are you seeing, especially for the European markets?
So I'll talk specifically about liraglutide because GLP1 overall market, of course, is very large in Europe and globally. But liraglutide, where we have an approval, is roughly $500 million market for the innovator in Europe. And that we already have the approval in Europe, and we are getting ready to launch that product in the coming quarters. So that's the addressable opportunity of $500 million with very limited number of other generic companies in that market. And India, of course, we just announced 10 days back, we received an approval from CDSCO in India, and we'll be launching that product in India as well through few of our partners.
Right, Mr. Mittal, let's talk about your new launches. A good majority of them have recently happened outside of the US. Is there any shift in strategy with respect to the markets that you are targeting at present?
Oh, no. I mean, I think US will, of course, continue to be one of the most important and largest market for all our products. But of course, we cannot be dependent only on the US. And I think in line with the position of the business that we did from Viatris also was to enter many other markets on our own or through some of the very strong partners locally. So we today, if you look at the revenue breakdown for biologics business, 40% of the revenues are from US and 35 from Europe and remaining from MOW. And each of the market segment would continue to be an important growth driver.
Specifically, how are we progressing on the entire ASPAT approval, and what is it's a bit of a tongue twisters here when you especially look at the names of the medicines. Chemically, Siddharth, I know the way these medical names are derived, it's a function of salt, it's a function of chemical composition, but I'll give it an attempt. Bevacizumab. Cinumab, I know, is an antibiotic. So what is the update on that?
See, the market share changes will get reflected along with the quarterly earning in June when we report, for June quarter when we report in August. But the March data was published for all the products in the US. We had a very robust market share, whether it was biosimilar Glargine or biosimilar Trastuzumab or biosimilar Pegfilgrastim. We continue to gain market share compared to the previous quarters. And as far as Revlimid is concerned, we had a settlement with the innovator for a limited quantity launch, which we launched in fourth quarter. And majority of the volume that we could have launched was supplied in fourth quarter. So those volumes are not going to continue during the first 3 quarters of this fiscal. And January 26 is when the market opens up for unlimited launch. So again, we will see an uptick coming back in fourth quarter.
Okay, Mr. Mittal, thank you so much for your time and sharing the strategy ahead and also giving us some final details about the QIP. On that note, we'll let you go. For viewers, time to get in some mid-cap bets now from our technical experts who are once again back with us on the show. We have Sharan and Kunal back. Sharan, let's begin with you. Where are you placing your mid-cap bets today?
So for me, I think real estate is very strong. You can add Prestige Estate